Hey, happy Monday, everyone. This is Kim, and I'm coming to you with a Monday moment. Today, I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about obedience. Growing up as one in the Gen X generation, one of the phrases that often came from my parents was, because I said so. And I wanted to talk about how, because I said so, can be a very important phrase in the lives of a Christian. God has called us to obedience. And during this time, He really is wanting us to be obedient to the point of not always questioning everything, but because He told us to, He wants us to do it. I know growing up, a lot of times we wanted explanations when our parents told us to do something and got a little upset when the explanation was because I said so. And looking back now, sometimes you understood the because I said so was keeping you from something. And a lot of times when God is trying to tell us things and show us things, He will have us walk into obedience where He doesn't always give us the explanation. He will just say, because I said so. And I think it's really important that we listen to His voice, because if we always have to have an explanation or a reason why, we're not truly walking in faith. Sometimes we're not going to have all the answers, but God may be directing us to do something, to go somewhere, and we need to check our hearts, because sometimes we don't need to question, we just need to do it because He said so. When I looked up the word obedience, just a generic definition says compliance with an order, request, or a law, or submission to another's authority. Then there are some categories that define obedience a little bit differently based on certain things. There are categories of motivation where someone may be considered a slave. So it was compulsory, it was driven by fear or by punishment, or a prisoner, where it's fear, it's punishment. And obedience from a servant, there may be some transactional something that happens, or a reward or a benefit. Or you may have a soldier who obedience is based on their duty, their discipline, or their patriotism. Then you have obedience from what would be considered someone who loves, which would be the highest form, where it's motivated by deep love or faith. And that often leads to more willing obedience. There's also a level of maturity that is often looked at with obedience, where you're either acting out of a fear of a consequence, a desire of a reward, you want to do it for the good of someone else, or due to love and faith. And then there's a psychological way of thinking of it, and it's a nature or an action where you're following rules for the common good, like traffic laws. If we don't follow traffic laws, accidents happen, people get hurt. There's also a destructive obedience where there could be following orders that could cause harm. And there can be a conscious and unconscious obedience, where deliberate versus automatic following of commands. Then when we look more in the religious context, you look at someone may be more inconsistent in their obedience. So they obey sometimes or when things go well. And then there's provisional or future. You're obeying with the expectation of a future reward. And then what I'm sure that God would like to see is when we have unconditional or surrender, where we are surrendering our will for God's will. And in the Hebrew language, obedience is primarily understood through the root word shama, which means to hear, to listen, to understand. It's not a passive type of compliance. It implies that there is an active and a response, that you are hearing something, you're listening with the intent to take action, to heed, or submit to authority. So it's not just enough to just do it just because. Like, you hear something and you are acting upon it and you are submitting. The core word is used for obedience, and it's often translated as hear or hearken, but it contextually means to obey. So in the Bible, one of the stories that's often talked about is when Samuel gave Saul some instructions from God about going to a place and destroying everything there. Everything, everyone, utter destruction of everything. And this is in 1 Samuel 15. And then Saul sort of followed directions, but didn't completely follow directions. And he kept the best of the crops and the animals, and he also kept the king alive. And so when Samuel came back around and everything had not been destroyed as instructed, in 1 Samuel 15, 22 and 23, it says, "So Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king." So when we look at obedience, what God is asking us to do is to do what he said, and to do it completely. Not the way we think it should be, not because we think we have a good idea, not because we have a different interpretation. He wants us to do it because he said so. He has a plan for us. In Jeremiah 29:11, it talks about God has plans for us to prosper, and he has an expected end. And if we go and try and do our own thing, we may miss out because we have not done as he said. There are scriptures all through the Bible that talk about obedience. James 1, 22 through 25 says, "But be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourself. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does." We have to understand who God made us. And because he knows us better than anyone else, if he's telling us to do something, we should do it. And we can't just hear it. We have to do it. We have to be active participants. And if we understand who we are and we abide in him, then we will do exactly what it is we have been called to do. In John 15, it talks about, Jesus said, "I am the true vine and my Father is the vine dresser." We need to abide in him, and he's going to cut away whatever is not bearing fruit. So we need to bear fruit. If we are not obedient, we will not bear fruit. In Joshua 1, 7 through 9, it says, "Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, and that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. If the children of Israel would not have obeyed God in the moment they were supposed to cross over into the promised land, they would not have been able to cross over. And he told them to step into the Jordan. And before the children of Israel saw God part the Red Sea, this time he did not allow them to see the entire miracle before they stepped out. So when God says, because I said so, he may be asking you to step out on faith even when you don't see the whole picture. He may have you step out anyway. So when he says, do something, don't always question, don't need to have all the answers. Have the faith to step out, and he will move the water. He will move the obstacles. He will make provision. Sometimes there may be things you have to go through, but that doesn't mean that you stop. If God told you to do it, you walk in it, you go through it. So just remember that God said, do it. He said, keep his commandments. He said, obey him. And we want to do more than just be hearers of the word. We want to be doers of the word. And that starts with obedience. I hope that this message has touched you in some way. And I hope you continue to join me when I come online for these moments. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.